And welcome back to Hannity. Here now is more of my interview with possible presidential candidate Donald Trump.
Iran, the nuclear threat is real. The way our relationship with Israel is strained, I think we're getting to a point where the Iranian nuclear facilities have got to be taken out at some point. Difficult job. If the Israelis, if you're president, the Israelis see the need that they've, for their national security, got to take it out, would you support them, and you think it's in our best geographic political interest to do so?
Well, first of all, I was the Grand Marshal of the Israeli Day Parade 10 years ago when, believe me, it was dangerous because there was a little war going on and a lot of problems. And I walked down Fifth Avenue, and Jewish friends of mine still remember that day. I have a park named after me in Israel that I donated. And I'm a big fan of Israel. I will say this. I don't understand. I have so many Jewish friends that are big Obama fans, and they're supporting Obama and giving tremendous amounts. Wealthy guys live in New York, wealthy, hedge funds, real estate guys. They're supporting Obama.
Why?
Obama's terrible for Israel. He's terrible for Israel.
I agree.
You know, it's interesting with Obama, too. If you look at Wisconsin, he made a pledge that he was going to march in Wisconsin. He was going to put on his walking shoes and march with those teachers. Where is he? He's all talk. He's all talk. Unfortunately, he's also action, but it's always the wrong action.
All right, let's talk a little bit. You mentioned recently that you're a Christian, that you go to church. How important is your faith to Donald Trump?
Very important. I'm a Protestant. I'm a Presbyterian. Very important. I'm a believer. I'm also, you know, busy and probably busier than I should be. But I am a Christian. I'm Protestant. I'm Presbyterian.
Pro-life?
I'm pro-life.
Gay marriage? Where do you stand?
I'm against gay marriage. And, you know, not easy to do in New York, but I'm against. And I have changed views on different things over the years.
Like?
Well, like pro-life. I was always torn by it. I was always torn by it. I'm very much, to take the other extreme, very much in favor of the death penalty, especially for terrorists and especially for people that, you know, killers that you see so many with the girls that are being killed and then they capture these guys. I am so for the death penalty. And I think as far as terrorism is concerned, death penalty with a speedy trial. Look at this. Look at the guy that knocked down the World Trade Center. They're still negotiating where, I mean, last week I heard they're finally going to try him in a military camp. This is after years.
Military tribunal.
So he'll go for years and years, probably die of old age before they even try him. I'm for speedy but fair trials. Fair. But speedy trials, speedy.
You support military tribunals over bringing him to New York?
Absolutely. I think it would have been a mistake. What's the purpose of bringing him? First of all, what's the purpose of bringing him into New York? You'll have riots, you'll have this, you'll have that. You have the military. Our military is great. The other thing I'd do, I wouldn't cut the military. If anything, I'd increase the military. We would have, with me, the strongest. I hate when they say we're going to cut the military. Why? Because China's taking all our money? Because Colombia, little Colombia, they made $4 billion on us last year. Colombia in South America, fourth largest in South America. They made $4 billion.
Who are past presidents that you admire most?
Well, I really liked and knew a little bit Ronald Reagan, and I really liked him. You know, not only his policy, he's a smart guy, but so much smarter. You know, I always sort of have to laugh to myself when people try and criticize that level of intelligence. And I loved his style. I loved what he represented for I said, there's our president. I would see him sometimes. He once gave a speech, I think it was at the Lincoln Memorial, and he was dressed in a tuxedo, and I said, you know, there's something to that. There's our president. I thought he represented something very special for this country. And it was a much more special time. What I loved also about him, it was no games. When Jimmy Carter lost the hostages when they were in Iran, they'd still be there. And Reagan said, essentially, they will be back the first day, or they will let go the next day.
They were afraid of him.
Because, as I say, it's the messenger. People say, what would you do to OPEC? There's plenty you do. They wouldn't even be there if it wasn't for us, okay? So they say, well, what would you do? It's the messenger. You know, I have business people that I deal with all the time. I can send one guy into a room and then another guy into the room, say the same thing. One guy comes back with the bacon, the other one doesn't, all the time. It's the messenger.
You would drill in Anwar? You'd drill in the 48 states?
Absolutely.
You would build nuclear facilities?
Absolutely.
You build refineries?
Now, I will tell you this. Nuclear, And I always say that you have to be a little bit flexible in life. You can't just say, boom. I'm a big driller, okay, and with care. You know, I've gotten many environmental awards. I build these great golf courses. I build great buildings. I get a lot of awards for what I do. So I know the environmental thing probably better than anybody. I also know it's carried to an extent that's absolutely insane. I mean, I've seen jobs stop that would have employed thousands of people, but they can't because there's a piece of grass that they found.
Oh, there's a turtle lake.
I have seen incredible developments with tremendous job-producing capabilities stopped many times because of swamp pink, a little piece of grass like this that doesn't even look good. Okay, I mean, I've seen things stopped environmentally that are absolutely, and I also know, see, I really play the game at a very high level. I have many environmental consultants, and when they come to me and tell me why we can't do something and why we have to do this and why we have to do that, and then they laugh, and I say, this is ridiculous. They say, yeah, but that's how we make our money. And they go up to Albany and they go to Washington and they make it impossible so that we have to hire them in order to get around all these rules and regulations. It's hurting our country. You go to China, they're filling in a section of the ocean to build a city. I say to the guys doing it, how long did it take you to get your environmental permits?
A week.
They don't even know what I'm talking about. They go, this is the ocean. You know, they're filling in a section a quarter of a mile by a quarter of a mile. Big.
And that to build the
and I
casinos.
say, in order to build other things, a lot of things, buildings, in order to build cities. But when I say, because we're so used to it. You know, if you drop a pebble into the Hudson River, you get the electric chair, okay? A pebble. So here they are filling in. You see thousands of trucks, just truck after truck. I mean, literally thousands. They have dump trucks lined up miles long, dumping, dumping, dumping. And we don't see that in this country.
I cut down a tree on my property. I got a $15,000 fine.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
But you see this, and I say to these guys, how long did it take you to get these approvals? Because, you know, growing up in this country, they don't even know what I'm talking about. They said, Donald, it's the ocean. And they're right. It's a speck. It's so little you can't even see it from, you know, from our great space platforms that we used to have.
And coming up, the mainstream media goes under the microscope in this week's installment of Media Mash, a special budget edition. That's next. And tune in tomorrow night, part 2 of my interview with Donald Trump. We'll have much more, including his analysis of the mainstream media's response to the controversy surrounding the president's birth certificate. That and much more tomorrow night, part 2. And welcome back to Media Mash, our weekly analysis of the mainstream Obama mania media's thrill up my leg liberal bias, this week's budget edition. And we go back through the outrageous material, this week's examples with Media Research Center's Brent Bozell. Brent, how are you, sir?
How you doing, Sean?
All right, we're going to take a little detour here. We're going to start with the president himself, because his speech yesterday, I think, was some of the most inflammatory, outrageous rhetoric of any politician. The media doesn't call him on it. Here's what he said.
It's a vision that says up to 50 million Americans have to lose their health insurance in order for us to reduce the deficit. Who are these 50 million Americans? Many are somebody's grandparents, maybe one of yours, who wouldn't be able to afford nursing home care without Medicaid. Many are poor children. Some are middle-class families who have children with autism or Down syndrome. Some of these kids with disabilities are, the disabilities are so severe that they require 24-hour care. These are the Americans we'd be telling to fend for themselves.
So the Ryan budget, old people out of nursing homes, poor children, kids that need 24-hour care, kids with autism and Down syndrome, fend for yourselves, which is an outright lie and a total, complete mischaracterization of Paul Ryan's plan. I didn't see many in the media talk about it.
No, Sean, this was startling because it really was one of those shocking moments. The story behind the scenes, and it's something the media are well familiar with, which was that the president invited Paul Ryan to sit in on this and then savaged him. The Republicans seriously thought that it was going to be a serious policy proposal. They might disagree with it, but it was going to be a serious policy proposal. And instead, he broadsided everyone with this this amazing display of demagoguery, just twisting and distorting it. Kudos to Jake Tapper of ABC, who pointed out that it was the same Barack Obama who gave a speech before the Republicans last year saying that people better not do this kind of exact language that he used yesterday. And Jake Tapper juxtaposed the two of them on ABC.com. Good for him for doing that. This was something that the media needed to denounce for what it was, which was just dishonest. And in this era where they're preaching civility, Sean, where were the denouncements of this?
Yeah, that's the point. He preaches civility. This was ugly political rhetoric. He was demagoguing the issue, and frankly, that's an outright lie. It's not just a mischaracterization. This was just not true. All right, let's go with the media that did pick up on this, and this is our friend, Thrill Up Our Leg, Chris Matthews, basically saying half his audience is going to be killed.
The federal government promised that back in the 60s, that they would take care of people who've worked their whole life for their medical costs. Now the Republicans are saying, no, we're not going to do that anymore. Yeah, here's your Borders book, $10 gift certificate that's going to pay for your $1 million health care costs. I mean, it's a joke. Let them offer a big slash of Medicare, which is going to kill half the people who watch this show.
All three of them.
Well, yeah, there is a joke going around on Twitter right now that if half the audience of his audience is killed, that we hope the other viewer is okay. Look, this is what we're up against. This is what anyone who tries to do something about this train wreck is up against. There are no proposals on the left to do anything about this. It's just that Republicans are now, they're trying to kill people. You know, Newt Gingrich is probably saying, I got off easy in '95. I was just starving people, and I was just putting people on the street. These guys, these Republicans, they're killing people.
All right, let's stay on the same network, and this time it's about let's punish white men who drove America into the ditch. Watch this.
I just don't understand why, with top earners doing better than ever, why they can't be a part of this equation. I'm sorry. It would just be a lot easier to swallow. And if you looked at the New York Times yesterday and you saw the top 30 earners and how much money they are making all over again, including some of the people who drove us into the ditch, all white men, by the way, just one woman.
You know, most people in New York pay 55% of their income in taxes. Not enough. We got to take it all, Brent. Confiscate it, redistribute it, spread it around. It's our patriotic duty.
Mostly white men. Where did that come from? And one woman. Had it been two women, would that have been okay? I mean, what is she talking about? I don't know who these 30 white men or 29 white men were, but they didn't cause this spending eruption. It was her friends on Capitol Hill. It's the government that spends it, not 30 people in New York City. And oh, by the way, if you had greedy people, what you do is you let them go bankrupt if they're corrupt. You don't bail them out like Barack Obama did.
All right, now here we have Chuck Schumer on with Matt Lauer, and boy, Matt, I got to tell you, they just fed Chuck those lines. You know, they're extreme. You're absolutely right, Matt, according to Chuck.
And when you look at some of the things the Tea Party and others on the far right are asking for, no funding for Planned Parenthood, no funding for climate control, public broadcasting, does it seem to you, Senator, that this is less about a fiscal debate or an economic policy debate, and they are making an ideological stand here?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Matt. You've hit the nail on the head.
Matt, you gave my talking points right back to me. Thank you for being such a hard-hitting reporter.
2 points on this, Sean. Number one, we now know where the antenna is of Matt Lauer. Anyone who is opposed to federal funding of abortion, which is the overwhelming public, is far right, according to Matt Lauer. Number two, he could have confronted Chuck Schumer on the fact that it was disclosed, he was caught, that he's getting all these talking points from the Democrats where they're telling him to distort and exaggerate everything. He didn't confront him on any of that. Instead, he did the exaggerating for Chuck Schumer, so that Schumer's response was, you're exactly right. In other words, you just did my dirty work for me. And
Thanks,
they call
Matt.
it news.
All right, I'm sure we'll be treated the same way on the Today Show. Good to see you, Brent Bozell. Time now to check in with Greta Van Susteren for a sneak peek of what's coming up in 19 short minutes when she... Where are the cards? Pink.
Actually, I got a card here. I actually have a scorecard because we have so many guests tonight. All right, ready? Here we go. Get your pen out. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker is going to be right here on the set. Senator Orrin Hatch, Senator Tom Coburn, Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann is going to be here. Governor Mike Huckabee is going to be here. That and so much more. That's just the beginning. Wow. We got a lot going on tonight. We got some. I'm exhausted reading that list.
I'm tuned in. I'll be listening on the way home. Greta Van Susteren in 18 short minutes. Let not your heart be troubled. Great American panel. Next. And tonight on our Great American panel, he was a senior spokesman for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, founding partner of Hilltop Public Solutions. Mo Elliothy is back with us. Did I say that right?
Elliothy, close enough.
Oh, whatever.
Every time it's something different.
President of the Penn Financial Group. It's a pain. Can't you just change the spelling? Author of The Next Great Bull Market Expert, Matt McCall is here, and she is the former chairwoman of the Virginia Republican Party, current vice president of the Young America's Foundation, Kate Obenshain. All right, let's go to Donald Trump. In an interview. Tomorrow, we purposely didn't want to, because so many people have asked him about the birther issue, but he says some interesting things about Bill Ayers, Jeremiah Wright, the birther issue tomorrow night that we're going to air. But let's run a little bit of him talking about Trump and the grandmother and Kenya. Here's what he said.
Look, he's got a grandmother in Kenya who said he was born in Kenya at the hospital. Then there was bedlam in the room. Bedlam. I don't mean like a little, because he was close to becoming president. And there were a lot of people in that room. And she was talking to a reporter with a lot of handlers, a lot of Obama handlers. So they have the grandmother, she said Kenya. Then all of a sudden, 51 seconds later, he asked a question again. And you hear people scream, no, Hawaii, Hawaii.
What do you think?
I think the left's heads are just spinning in complete circles right now. There's a complete frenzy about what Trump is bringing up, because it's the third rail of Obama. You can't talk about the birth certificate. You can't talk about his college transcripts or what happened when he was out of college. And
you can't talk about Bill Ayers. You can't ask if he knew Louis Farrakhan. His wife was on a magazine with Mrs. Farrakhan. That's
right. And Trump is now bringing attention to it, and he's got the gravitas to be able to do it and not be completely eliminated. But the vigor with which the left is just tearing him to shreds over this makes me think, I think maybe they're a little scared on this one.
I think there's a lesson here. I think the reason that Donald Trump is resonating, and I want this process to go forward. I don't support any one candidate right now, but I think the reason he's resonating because he's just saying what he means and means what he says. And every other politician, they're so controlled and they're tight and they're measured. Nervous. I think there's a lesson to be learned here. Fight hard.
A breath of fresh air, to be honest with you, in a political scheme, because everybody has been so trained as a politician for years. Trump comes in from nowhere, from left field, and suddenly he's trying to become a politician, but he doesn't know how you're supposed to be a politician. And this whole birther thing, I think, I love it, because I'm on board with him. The problem is this could actually bite him, where in the end, because if it ends up they turning it up, then they're going to put him as a conspiracy theorist. I think it could actually end up hurting him, unfortunately.
Well, it might, and that's purpose. That's why I didn't bring it up till later in the interview, part 2, which we'll air tomorrow. And he talked he thinks Bill Ayers wrote the first book of Barack Obama.
I don't even know where to begin. I don't think it's the beginning.
That's in the place.
I don't think it's the left's head that's spinning so much as a lot of Republicans' heads are spinning right now. There are other Republican candidates have no idea how to handle this.
Look, go ahead. The strongest case you have is the announcement that was in one of the newspapers 8 days after Barack Obama was born by the grandparents. They put it in the newspaper, and they have to get that from the Department of Health, and they have to get that from the hospital. So I think that's your strongest case. But it is odd because I just say produce the birth certificate, move on. I believe you're born in the United States.
You've got not only the announcement, but you've got the certification from the state of Hawaii.
No. That's a certificate of a live birth with a stamp thing on the back, nobody's signature.
Look, he's talking about what the White House doesn't want to be brought up, what the left doesn't want, what the Democrats don't want any attention to. It's not just the birth certificate. It's like this whole segment of his life that we know nothing about, and he's bringing attention to it.
What he's bringing attention to.
And who cares? He doesn't care if it bites him. I mean, this is what he thinks.
What he's talking about are what most Americans don't care about, because most Americans accept the fact that the President of the United States was born
in the United States.
They assume that, though. They assume that, but now that's brought up. And I got to tell you, Trump is good for the Republican Party because, if anything, he's bringing vigor to this. He's gonna really get everybody else moving, I think, and moving in the right direction. Instead of being that politician, they now have to keep up with Trump. So
and the American people realized that they were totally gullible in the last election.
Yes,
and now he is basically Trump is forcing the media to focus some attention on who is this guy.
But I got hammered for bringing up Wright and Ayers and all these controversies. Nobody wanted to dig into his past. I think it's interesting. The reason I think why Governor Palin's popular, Trump is getting traction, Rubio's popular, Rand Paul, the governors, Republican governors, because they're all fighting. And that's why I think the Republicans last Friday made a mistake. They should have fought to the bitter end for their $61 billion. All right, we got to take a break. Mo is going to recapture his composure as we continue straight ahead.
Pretty daggone.
All right, more with our great American panel. All right. Big moment on The View today with our friend Elizabeth Hasselbeck. Now, I told you in part of the interview tomorrow, Donald Trump talks about the issue of the birth certificate. He talks about Bill Ayers. He talks about Jeremiah Wright. But he has said that he thinks that Bill Ayers wrote Barack Obama's first book, and they were talking about it on The View. And watch what our friend Elizabeth does to Joy Behar.
He said that the first book, My Dreams from My Father, was written by this guy Ayers, this guy that they hated, that made a big to-do-da, and that the second book that Obama wrote was written by like a high school graduate or something. Oh, President Obama went to Harvard Law School and Columbia University, okay? He is the very intelligent guy.
Well, doesn't that make President Bush very smart as well then? Yeah?
And on that note, we will be right back. She got me on that one.
Mate, Joy.
First time Joy Behar's been speechless. It was a beautiful moment. I think Elizabeth Hasselbeck deserves a Medal of Honor for making it on that show. I tell you, what a nightmare.
She does have to, you know, she is a party of one in terms of her opinions.
And it shows really how weak Joy Behar's arguments are. I mean, she's pulling stuff out, and Elizabeth was set up perfectly for this and this to stand up to her. And, you know, if that's the best argument that Joy has, and that puts her speechless, boy, I'd love to sit next to her and put her speechless a lot more.
Oh?
Yeah, I mean, look, Joy's argument was not the strongest argument I've ever heard, and she did walk right into that. And look, I'm one of those Democrats that actually agrees with Elizabeth. George Bush is a smart guy. I actually believe George Bush is a smart guy. I believe Barack Obama is a smart guy. You know, but the issue, the broader issue that they were talking about, going back to our previous segment, about the president's, where he comes from and is he true American? I mean, that I don't.
You don't want to talk about Joy, do you?
Wait a minute. The big issue.
I'm fine talking about Joy.
Why do you hang out with Jeremiah Wright? You know, I'm fortified by him. I'm inspired by him. He is like family to me. Why do you hang out with Bill Ayers? You give speeches, sit on boards, start your political career in his house. The guy, unrepentant terrorist, bombed the Pentagon, Capitol, New York City Police Headquarters. Why didn't that become a big issue? Now,
if I recall, it was a pretty big issue.
We made it a big issue, and the media ignored it. They asked him one time, and he goes, "Oh, he's just some guy in the neighborhood." That was his answer.
I remember I was on the other side in that primary campaign. I remember it coming up quite a bit.
I remember Hillary Clinton's people loving me for the first time.
Everyone loves you, Sean. I mean, come on.
At that
starting
moment,
right here.
They were like writing me notes, "Keep going," and I'm like, "Whatever you want. I'm just doing my job."
Look, these are issues that did come up in the last campaign. They weren't just a one-day story. These came up a lot. But look, the question is, where are we now? And where are we going now?
I'm going to admit I was wrong. I should never have started the Stop Hillary Express.
Yeah, you shouldn't have, but oh
that was a bad
we
move.
learn and move forward. I still think she's going to resign and run against Obama.
Look at Mo.
I think she's doing just fine as Secretary of State.
Yeah, she's about to blow, I tell you. She can't stand what she's having to deal with now. I have to say, Hillary Clinton's actually looking a little bit better.
Clintons and the Obamas hate each other. And I know too many people that confirm that. Bill Clinton has never gotten over what he said when the race card was played and they planned it from the beginning. Never gotten over it.
But don't you think
would you get over it? I mean, no, I wouldn't get over it either. I mean, I'm actually back Bill Clinton in this situation. I would not get over it either. And it's his darn wife, So, I mean, to me, yes, but that's going to be a big divide coming forward. You're going to see, I mean, Mo probably knows better than I do, but I think there's going to be a divide.
There is a ruthless side to Obama. What he's saying about Republicans now, that, he wants a grandma and grandpa to die and kids with autism and Down syndrome. What do you think of that?
I thought it was stunning. I thought it was stunning, and seeing Paul Ryan sitting there in the audience. But it was a complete distortion of what is in Paul Ryan's plan. It's just, that's what people said about when Bill Clinton tried to reform reform welfare back in '96. They said, oh, all these people are going to be starving in the streets. It's a scare tactics, and it worked. Actually, we reformed.
But Sean, that's all he has left. That shows he's ruling as a president.
Right.
He has to turn to those tactics.
No arguments.
He
can't fight him on the ideas. He couldn't come up with a comprehensive plan that actually countered Ryan on each and every point.
Let's give Mo the last word.
Well, look, I mean, honestly, I think every year there's a big issue, and both sides try to put a human face on that issue, and the other side always hits them for it. And that's the
Republicans
reality.
want grandma to die and kids with autism and Down
But I will say this. I do think that there is a
wrong.
big divide between the two parties right now on this issue of Medicare and Medicaid.
All right, we got to go.
There's going to be a
Good to see
backlash
everybody.
to that.
Thank you for being with us. Greta's next. See you tomorrow night.